Is Sting leaving WWE for All Elite Wrestling? Guys, I know this sounds crazy, but it could very well be true. The rumors are out there and they are heating up. My name is Ango. This is Destination Pro Wrestling, and today we are talking about Sting possibly going to All Elite Wrestling. Now, if you guys didn't know, Sting has had some social media interactions with guys from AEW, mostly Cody Rhodes, but that's not really where this rumor is actually coming from. It's really strange, but I have to talk about it. Now, if you guys didn't know, the one weird thing about WWE and these kind of videos that I make, anytime it's rumored a WWE talent is going to AEW, there is a plethora of guys who really criticize this because they think that AEW shouldn't sign a whole bunch of former WWE talent. And you know, honestly, if this was like 10, 15 years ago, I would totally understand that argument. But in 2020, like 90% of the roster in WWE have literally come from somewhere else. A lot of the bigger names in WWE have come from ROH or Impact or New Japan, or they have come from somewhere else other than WWE. And honestly, when you look at NXT, it is essentially a PWG light. So yes, while a lot of guys from WWE can go on to AEW, and yes, I guess it could be annoying, please understand that a lot of the talent in WWE aren't actually created from WWE, and that's not actually a bad thing. There obviously are some guys WWE have created from the ground up and have allowed them to become a star on their own, and right now those guys typically are considered WWE type people, right? Like they are the WWE guy. But Sting has always been a very interesting piece to WWE because for so long, Sting avoided signing with WWE. And a lot of people were really shocked by that because of his loyalty to WCW and his loyalty to TNA. And TNA, you know, I know it's kind of like a weird thing right now. Impact Wrestling exists, and they're starting to use a little bit of that TNA branding. But the conversation of Sting going to Impact is actually not the conversation being made. It really is the conversation of being whether or not he's going to go to AEW. Now, this is where things get really interesting. Sting and Cody Rhodes have had some interactions on social media, and a lot of people are thinking this has a lot to do with the rumors being made that Sting would go on to AEW, and actually, I'm not using this as part of my argument at all. Now, what's really interesting is recently, WWE has, as you guys know, they have like deals with like television deals, entertainment deals, video game deals, anything that involves their license. Now, there's a toy company that produces WWE lines of toys with their current and former superstars that are contracted to WWE in some capacity. Now, nobody actually really knows what the contract entails with Sting or WWE. A lot of people don't actually know whether or not Sting has a Legends deal, an active performer deal, or whatever it may be. But that's why things are very interesting. WWE and Sting seem to no longer have any sort of contract at this moment in time. It is being reported that Sting and WWE have technically parted ways. And the reason why there are rumors of Sting going to AEW is because there has been a lot of interest from AEW themselves. Now, as you guys know, AEW cannot sign every single person that was in WWE or was recently released by WWE. But Tony Khan has done a really good job of maintaining All Elite Wrestling and has done pretty good so far with ratings during this pandemic. So how would AEW secure Sting? Well, I do believe a lot of this will have to do with Sting's medical clearance. It is being said for a while that Sting could physically go at least one more time in the ring, and it was something that was being said about him versus The Undertaker at some point. However, WWE has no interest with that. Now, if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, Sting was actually previously injured by Seth Rollins, and at that point in time, it was said that Sting was never going to be able to get back into the ring. However, years later, it is now being said the opposite is happening. Sting is cleared for in-ring work and has very little interest in actually doing in-ring work, but has a little bit more interest in going to another company and having some sort of character, some sort of television time, some sort of storyline. And I think with Sting having the ability to maybe have one or two matches, AEW opening up that checkbook would make a lot of sense for them. Now, personally, I will always be on the side of the argument that says Sting should have his WrestleMania match with The Undertaker. Regardless of how big this match could be in terms of casual fans or internet fans, that's not really my concern. Just as a longtime wrestling fan, this was one of those matches I've always wanted to see. And yes, both guys kind of being out of shape, a little bit older, that type of thing. I do believe that we're not if we were to ever get this match, we're not going to see a typical 20-minute match. But what I do believe we would see, or what WWE could do, is a cinematic match, especially like how we've just seen with AJ Styles versus Undertaker. I think this would be the right call for WWE. But with Sting not being under an agreement with WWE, therefore this toy company cannot use the Sting license under WWE, it would make sense that AEW could sign Sting and use Sting in some capacity. Now, I know a lot of people hate the idea of authority figures, and I know Cody Rhodes recently spoke out against the idea of using authority figures. But I think in certain circumstances, it does make sense, and I'm not going to get into it entirely, but I will say the idea of putting a authority figure in AEW right now would make sense, especially because we know that Cody and the executive vice presidents are literally running the company and also booking themselves in matches. They don't need to insult our intelligence, but what they do need to do is have somebody who could keep things organized. It doesn't have to be what we've typically seen before from TNA or WWE, but I think having Sting compete in AEW and then eventually becoming some sort of commissioner or something, it's something I would be cool with. I'm not saying it's the greatest idea, but it's something I would accept. Now, the idea of Sting going to AEW is going to matter a lot more in the future when crowds attend the shows. And that's why I don't know how I foresee this happening. But I would say that Sting going to AEW would be a massive deal. And it would be very, very, very interesting to see how WWE would respond, especially with rumors like this floating around. Does WWE really want to lose the WCW legend? And honestly, I just don't think they care. I think they made it very clear that the Undertaker-Sting match is better to never happen. But I also found this to be very interesting because there was a rumor at some point that the Prince of Saudi Arabia had actually wanted Sting to compete in Saudi Arabia for Crown Jewel or Super Showdown. And this was something that WWE did not do. If AEW opens up the checkbook, which we all know Tony Khan can do, I almost feel like it's a given that he will end up in AEW. And it just goes on to show the argument that Sting was never really a WWE guy. And it's going to really help the argument from fans who really believe that Sting went to WWE for the money. And can you blame him? I think at the end of the day, everybody knew they wanted Sting in WWE. And the biggest thing that WWE did, and I think it turned a lot of people away, was how they handled Triple H versus Sting at WrestleMania. And I, for one, as a fan, was not really cool with the way they did it. I thought it was just a cluster, and that's it. And unfortunately, with WWE, sometimes they have big opportunities that they fail to cash in on. And I think Sting was one of them. But I love Sting, and I love the idea of Sting being in WWE. So ultimately, for me, it's not about whether or not he goes to AEW or not. I mean, technically, he could always go to AEW and then come back to WWE. But he is up there in age, and whatever he does next probably will likely be the end of his career if he does make a move. This could all very well be nothing at all, but if Sting is not in contract with WWE and we don't know the details of what is actually happening with him in WWE, the rumors that suggest he is signing with AEW could very well be possible. Tony Khan has the money. Whether or not the Khan family wants to open that checkbook is entirely up to them. I really do believe in investing in the youth, but this company is still considered a startup in my eyes, and I think if you were to bring somebody like Sting onto your program, it makes a lot of sense. But what kind of matchups would we get from Sting in AEW? There's going to be very, very few of them, so you have to choose this correctly. And I think the only way AEW could pull this off, and I know a lot of people will disagree with me here, but the only way AEW could pull this off and make this meaningful is if Sting were to put over a guy like Darby Allin. There's a lot of similarities, and I'm not going to point them out, but I think there's a lot of similarities between the two, and I think you could do some storytelling there. And I think with AEW needing to, their goal should be to bring the casual fans back. I think there's a lot you can do by bringing Sting back, getting the ratings, and on top of that, I think you can create a new star out of it. But that's ultimately up to Tony Khan, Cody, Kenny, and the Bucks. And I think if these guys can really write down a really intriguing storyline that puts over a rising star, that will literally cement AEW as a top company in pro wrestling. So ultimately, I am excited to see what happens, but I don't know if I can trust either company at this moment in time. I think there's a lot of cool potential. I think WWE still owes us that Undertaker match, but it just probably won't happen at this point. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, but that's always going to be one of the greatest matches to never happen. And it's not because the in-ring work. I think we all know that. I think we know the intriguing characters that they are is what sells this money-making match. And if they can't provide it to us, AEW will find a way to do something pretty cool with it, because AEW has a good track record of that thus far. I want to know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Is Sting going to sign with AEW? All the signs point to yes. Whether or not it happens, it's going to be very, very intriguing. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. My name is Zango, and guys, don't forget social media links down below if you guys want to contribute to the channel, DPW Plus, all that good stuff. Become a member today, starting at $1 a month, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.